welcome to my channel. This is my gastric bypass journey. Okay, it's probably not gonna be so many rainbows and butterflies and puppies, although there might be some puppies later and you'll just have to subscribe to find out. I decided a little while ago that I was going to go through gastric bypass surgery, and I know there's a lot of thoughts about that and a lot of controversy revolving around that. And hey, guess what? It gets better. I'm doing it in Mexico. So I figured it might be helpful to explain myself a little bit. I have struggled with my weight for my entire life. I literally cannot think of a time that I consciously remember being not worried or concerned or upset over my weight. And for a while when I was pretty young, I was just a little bit chonkier than the other kids, and then it started to get pretty bad in middle school. There was a lot of bullying involved. There was a lot of weight gain. I believe towards the end of middle school, beginning of high school is when I was first put on birth control for medical reasons, which didn't help a lot of things either. And all through high school, I was a binge eater, and I would just keep gaining and gaining and gaining weight. I had several times that I was conscious and trying desperately to get control over it. I remember being on multiple diets throughout, before I was 18. I remember doing my mom's aerobic tape with her in the basement and, trying desperately to get control over it. And it just was never something that I felt like I could grasp. And it would always, boil out of control, turn into binge eating. It was just spiraling for me. I distinctly remember it got pretty bad in college. My freshman 15 was probably like freshman 50. That being said, I stopped weighing myself probably around the time that I was 16, and I don't know for a good chunk of my life what my weight actually was. So I don't know how much weight I gained in college, and I don't know, other than knowing how I felt and how I looked, that I didn't feel good at all. I saw my college graduation pictures, and that's when it really hit me that I had really done something to myself. And it wasn't too long after college, I ended up moving back in with my mom and my sister. And as a family, we all decided that we were going to go on Weight Watchers, and we were going to do something, and we were going to support each other. And I lost 50 pounds on Weight Watchers, but we ended up moving away from where our meeting was and everything. And we tried to get back in with a new meeting, new members, new leaders. It just wasn't the same. We couldn't really relate with them. It wasn't enjoyable anymore. So we tried to do as much as we could outside of the program, but if you're not consistently tracking your food and being mindful about everything, it just starts to slip away. And that's what happened. We were kind of out of it for a while. I was off and on. I was trying, but I wasn't being as careful as I really should be. And so my weight was kind of fluctuating, but mostly staying the same. I think I did end up losing a little bit more weight from there, but eventually I ended up moving in with my boyfriend out of state. Then things just got worse, and I kind of went back to all my old habits, and I just continued to eat things that I shouldn't eat, and got to this point where I realized, I need to get back on Weight Watchers, and I need to try this again the right way. So I found a nearby meeting, and I joined, and I was doing great. It's hard to explain to people who don't really get it or have never been in that situation, but the weight just doesn't fall off. I mean, it's a lot of work. And when you're talking about somebody who's had bad eating habits their entire life and doesn't know how to turn that switch off in their brain, it's not as simple as calories in, calories out. It's just not, it's not as easy as people boil it down to. And that's evidenced from all of the weight loss advice and information and YouTube channels and everything you can find online. It's not as easy as people like to boil it down to. It just isn't. But I was participating in Weight Watchers for about 3 years, and through ups and downs and plateaus and everything in between that time, I did lose 75 pounds. I got myself real close to being under 300 pounds for the first time that I could even remember in my life. And um, then the stresses started piling on, and it's not an excuse. It's an explanation for why I let things get out of hand, and that's completely my own fault. But we went through buying our first house, which was the most stressful thing I've been through in a long time. It was awful. We had an awful real estate agent. We had an awful experience. We had almost everything that you could think of go wrong, and it was really stressing me out. I was gaining weight, and then I would spend a week getting control over it, and I would lose a little bit, and then I'd gain more weight. And so I was just slowly climbing. We went on a vacation last year, something we've been planning for a long time. We went to London and Paris. It was amazing. It was during that vacation that I realized how bad things were. I've got a bad knee. It's a long story. I had surgery on it when I was 12. It's never given me any problems until that vacation. All the walking that we did, all the stairs that we did, everything, it was just so painful at the end of every day. And I realized that I could permanently be doing some damage to myself. And so I vowed to get back on the wagon when we got back from our vacation, and I did okay. I wasn't out of control, but we got back in October, and so it was just starting into the holidays, and so I kind of maintained through the holidays. I didn't do terrible, and January 2020, I decided I needed to get control over everything, and I needed to lose the weight that I had gained from the house buying process and get back on track with what I need to do. I struggled a little bit getting started, but I got a little bit of a groove going, and then the pandemic hit in about March is when it started to affect me. I started working from home. I started watching the news so much that it was stressing me out. I started ordering food because I was feeling like I was supporting my local restaurants, and I didn't want them to go out of business. So we were ordering tons of food, and it was just starting to get out of control. Kind of decided that I wasn't gonna weigh myself during that time, so I have no idea what I ended up gaining. But in April, my father died, and that was a roller coaster of emotions. There was so much involved with that. It was the first time anything like that had happened to me. I had never experienced a close death. I had very complicated feelings about my dad, and it just blew up, and I went a little insane. I think I was making pans of desserts, and I wasn't cooking anything. I had no desire to just do anything. I mean, it was awful in every sense of the word. It was awful. And it wasn't until several months went by that I realized I had really made a huge mistake. And when I finally decided to face the scale, I realized that I had gained back everything that I had lost over the 3 years on Weight Watchers. I gained all 75 pounds back, plus a few more within about a year's time. that was devastating to me. I was just, when I looked at that, when I internalized it and I finally faced it, I was so disappointed in myself. And I couldn't believe that 3 years of progress was just erased, what seemed like a blink of an eye. In addition to that, now my knee and my back were hurting me on a daily basis where they did not before. And I felt like I was just hobbling around my house and barely able to do anything, and I had no energy for anything, and I just felt like the complete opposite person than I had been the last couple of years, and it was scary. So I immediately decided that I needed to get control over everything, and I needed to get back on the wagon, try it again. And so I did a couple weeks of Weight Watchers, and I lost a couple pounds, and I was just like, oh my God, this is going to take me 3 more years. This is going to take me 3 more years to get back to where I was. And even then, I still wasn't under 300 pounds. And I had a complete breakdown. I just started bawling. And I remember sitting on my bed and just bawling and thinking, I can't do this again. I can't spend the next 3 years trying desperately to lose 75 pounds just to still be so heavy and so far from where I need to be. It was about that time that I realized that I needed more help. This is something I've been struggling with my entire life. And if you haven't experienced that, I don't know how to describe it. It is a devastation that sticks with you forever. Like I said before, I can't think of a time in my life where weight wasn't constantly on my mind and worrying me, and something that I was always trying to deal with. Even as a 15-year-old girl, I was dieting and skipping meals, and it's been unhealthy my whole life. And Weight Watchers taught me so much about how to view food and what food is healthy, and portion control. That was a huge thing I learned in Weight Watchers. But it just is such a slow, difficult process to lose that much weight. And I just didn't know if I had it in me again. But I sure as hell wasn't going to stay like this. What do we do? So I decided that I would look into weight loss surgery. And I started doing some research. And then I started doing some more research, and then it completely consumed my time, and I was doing nothing but reading articles and watching YouTube videos of people who've gone through it. And I decided this is something I needed to learn more about and talk with a doctor about. So I called my primary care doctor to see if I could have an appointment about getting a referral to a weight loss surgeon. And she had an opening that day. And I got in that same day that I called her because there was a cancellation, and I got a referral from her. She understood where I was coming from. She gave me a couple of other options that just weren't going to work for me, and agreed that she would send out the referral. So I made an appointment at Virginia Mason for a bariatric surgery consultation. And in that time, they said that they were going to contact the insurance, figure out what I needed to do. And then I believe it was about a week later, I was going to meet with the surgeon. I got a call a couple days later, and they said, your insurance actually doesn't cover any part of it at all. And so I asked what the cash price would be, and they said it was $22,000. And I considered it. I sat there and I considered, is that what I want to do? And I jokingly told my mom, well, maybe I'll just go to Mexico and get it. And she said, well, we have a family member who did that. That's not a bad idea. And I was floored. I was like, wait, I thought that you would totally blow that off and be like, absolutely not. My daughter is not going to Mexico for bariatric surgery. And she said, no, I think if you find a good place that you like and we can, see where she went, that's a perfectly fine option. And so I started researching it, and I got in contact with Mexico Bariatric Center. And it wasn't too long before I realized that this is something that I could really do. And they would see me, they would perform surgery on me, and they cost about $7,000 instead, which is insanely different, which is a huge difference. And so I thought about it and I talked it over with the people close to me, and I decided this is what I need to do. This is the help that I need to get that initial weight off of my joints, to get that initial weight down so that I can have the energy and the ability to do the things that I want to do and go from there. And I know everyone has their own thoughts about it, but ultimately it's the right decision for me. And I've determined that this is that extra help that I need, that tool that I need to help me get this weight off and keep it off finally, so that I don't have to struggle for the rest of my life. I'm 31 years old. I have so much more that I could do in my life, and I've already spent the first 30 years being overweight. I don't want to spend the next 30 years that way too. I mean, there's so much that I could do, and this is not an easy route. It's a permanent change in my body. It requires me going through surgery, and it is going to permanently change how I eat. And that's a big thing to take into consideration. But I still firmly believe that this is the thing that I need to help get my mind in the right place, to have food stop being such a central force to my life, and to lose the weight that I need to keep me from being in so much pain and unable to do the things that I need to do and the things that I love to do. So I'm scheduled for surgery on December 1st, 2020. And I will be flying down to San Diego, where they will pick me up, take me over the border, and I'll be in the hospital for a few days. I am getting gastric bypass, and then I'll be on my way to a new life and a whole bunch of new experiences, good and bad. So hopefully that's a little bit of context for where we're at. What I wanted to do was share my experience with this, starting with the pre-op diet. I have a pretty high BMI, and as a result, I have to do their pre-op diet for 8 weeks, which is a long time. So I have decided that I'd like to share that experience and my learning experience and the things that I'm eating and learning along the way, and how I'm feeling, and my surgery experience and everything. I want that to be another resource out there, because the videos that I've seen on YouTube have been so much help for me that I just want to lend my voice as another person going through this process, especially somebody at my weight. I don't see as many people on YouTube that have a starting weight of 374 pounds. So I'd love to share this experience with you, and I hope you'll join me for my journey. And thank you so much for watching.